If we were to take a look at some of the changes that have happened, maybe just within the last 12 months, and let's look at the impacts they've had on the merchants themselves.
Welcome back to another innovative episode of POS Finance Innovators. I'm very happy to have the great Kevin Lawrence with me. Kevin is the VP of Global Lender Relations at ChargeAfter. Kevin, want to go ahead and introduce yourself quickly?
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Actually, I'm a big fan of the Innovator series and glad I could join you as a contributor today. For myself, my background, I've been in the multi-lender platform space for the past decade. And my focus has been on building and really scaling programs that offer a full spectrum of financing options. That includes everything from prime, near prime, subprime, pay in for, B2B, revolving, installments, and even leasing. And I think my overall goal is to ensure that our merchant partners have access across all the verticals and in all the markets that they operate in, have access to flexible, high-performing lending solutions. And not just the solutions, but ones that meet the buyer profile for all of their customers. And I've had the good fortune to be able to do that with some of the largest and best-known banks, fintechs, and merchant partners in the world. It's been an absolute blast.
So Kevin, the reason we brought you on to this series today is to talk about some of the things we're seeing right now in the world of point-of-sale financing. And given your vast expertise working closely, as you said, both with lenders and merchants, you really are in a great and unique position to speak to what's happening. So what are you seeing and hearing right now, and particularly when it comes to the shifts in the lender behavior and possibly merchant concerns?
Yeah, great question. So, markets are always moving and changing, and not surprisingly, lenders are having to move and change to adjust to that, just like any other business would do. So, I think if we were to take a look at some of the changes that have happened, maybe just within the last 12 months, and let's look at the impacts they've had on the merchants themselves. So first, we had the raise in interest rates, and that led many lenders to adjust their risk tolerance. And as a result, approval amounts decreased, approval rates decreased, and that's particularly true among the prime lenders. So if you were a merchant partner without a secondary financing option, you found yourself in a position where you were having lost sales because you were not able to get the results that you had before. Another example would be some of the regulatory developments, especially those that were proposed by the CFPB. They were proposing actions that ranged everywhere from capping credit card fees to the treatment of medical debt and credit reporting. And that pushed many of the lenders to kind of rethink and remodel their strategy. The impacts from those proposed changes varied significantly. Some of the lenders chose to just restructure or maybe even eliminate certain promotional programs. I think we saw very specifically in the medical vertical that several of the providers either paused or exited the market entirely while they were waiting for clarity on these proposed regulation changes. So that was pretty significant. Another would be, I think that we've seen firsthand the impacts of mergers and acquisitions and how they can actually create a very negative consequence for merchants, especially when the acquiring entity shifts their priorities. Maybe they change their product structure, or they have just different underwriting strategies. The result for the merchant of these impacts can be as significant as if their original partner left the market altogether, because the impact is ultimately I'm getting offers that are different, and maybe they're not registering with my consumers, and now my finance program just isn't registering the way that it did before.
It's quite interesting. So Kevin, when a lender exits or changes direction, what kind of direct and maybe even indirect impact does it have both on the merchant from both an operational and a customer experience perspective?
Yeah, I think that we've seen those, Jeff. We've seen those exits across the board, right? Everything from large banks to near prime providers and BNPL providers. It's really kind of across the spectrum. And the impact to the merchant partner is it can be catastrophic. I mean, we have merchant partners today that generate 50% or more of their finance or their sales through point of sale finance. Think about that for a second. 50% of my business now is turned off. And that's just absolutely devastating. So the merchant is then put in a position where they're forced to scramble quickly to find a replacement. They have to not only find a partner, but they have to integrate them. And it's finding a partner, hopefully, that offers the same optionality and features and functions that you had before. Same underwriting, same promotions, same products. Then you have to take into account all the operational considerations that go along with that. You didn't plan for that, right? Now I have to find a way to work that in from a technical perspective. And what if that happens during the peak selling season? So it really puts the merchant in a position of total chaos.
So I guess part of the plan that a merchant has to think about is redundancy and maybe connectivity to a platform like a ChargeAfter to be able to have alternatives when it matters most. So Kevin, maybe for merchants who are suddenly facing the need to replace a lender, what would you say is the smartest first step they can take to stabilize and maybe future-proof their financing program? And did I just give it away by talking about a
No, I mean, I think you're spot on, right? It's don't think about replacing a single lender. That's just a temporary Band-Aid that really doesn't solve the underlying problem. I think my suggestion, obviously, would be that they consider a more transformational approach by partnering with a multi-lender platform partner. It takes the same level of effort to integrate a new lender as it does to integrate a platform. But the return on the platform investment is exponentially greater because instead of having one-to-one, I now have one-to-many. And that really is a much better option for the merchant partner.
So Kevin, you mentioned the idea of moving from a single lender setup to a multi-lender platform. Why is that shift, I would say, even more important now or becoming more important right now? And at the end of the day, what is the real value to both, I would say, the merchant and to the consumer at the point of sale?
I mean, I think from the merchant's perspective, it's all about control, right? Imagine a single integration that not only provides you the choice of the multiple lender programs, but one that can provide you with complete and total control over every aspect of financing across all your channels, your in-person, your online, and your telesales. And now imagine the ability to even set or adjust promotions, add programs, respond to changes in the market and attract more customers, a single frictionless application experience that results in more sales. Now imagine the ability to control all aspects of post-sale as well. It's not enough. It's not enough just to have someone be able to apply for financing, but they need to be able to move through the purchase cycle with that as well, and all of the things that happen after the purchase cycle. So imagine if you have the power of analytics that go with that, and they go way beyond approval rates, right? You can use analytics to see, is the consumer regularly accepting the financing that's being offered? If not, why? And is the financing being offered equal to what it is that the consumer is trying to purchase? So all of this comes in a platform relationship, and it really is beneficial for both the consumer in being able to have more options and more choices, and the merchant partner to have more control.
If a merchant were to move over to ChargeAfter, what could they expect in the first few weeks and even months ahead? And what does that journey typically look like? And what are the benefits? I mean, I think you spoke about some of the benefits, but what kind of benefits will the merchant be able to see right away as well?
This is something that I'm really passionate about. Merchant, we talked about the single integration benefit and that providing access to the lenders in all of the categories and the verticals that are really important for the merchant partner. They can also expect, the list of lenders to continue to grow over time. We add a new lender on average about every 3 months. And that continued investment is necessary to provide our merchant partners with the optionality and the redundancy that is critical to their business. the merchant partner can accept that the platform continues to grow and evolve and expand. Because every time we add a new merchant partner and we add a new lender, we're inevitably bringing in new features and new functionality that have the potential of benefiting them over time. And it provides, it brings with it additional optimization and enhanced performance. So the platform investment is not a single investment, and it's what you see is what you get. A platform continues to grow with you over time. And I think that's really important, right? So we have a very unique ability to fuel a merchant partner's growth and to serve as the bridge from where they are today to where they want to grow to tomorrow.
So does that mean if they were starting off with, say, e-commerce, you'd be able to rapidly grow online, or maybe, in-store or in-person or call center experience?
Yeah, that's very true, Jeff. And we find, right, the merchant partners are focused on expanding their business, right, and tapping into all potential channels where that can be. And so e-commerce is a great extension if you have an in-person business, and vice versa. So it is being able to tap into all of those channels.
Kevin Lawrence, Vice President of Global Lender Relations at ChargeAfter. Thank you so much for joining me on today's session.